medanta varicosa, I'm your muscle. When you're polluted, I will filter you. I open my siphons up and hold my substrate.
Hi, I'm Bug Carlson, also known as Laura C. Carlson. And that was excerpts from a video that I made in 2019 with a collaborator called Flow Through Me, which is a doo-wop love song written for Alas Medanta Varicosa. So we can go ahead and get into some of my work. I'm very grateful to the Freshwater Mollusk Conservation Society for inviting me to be a part of your symposium. I think this talk will be a little different than you usually see. But I'm very grateful and excited to share my research with other folks who are as excited about freshwater mussels as me. Like I said, I'm an artist. I'm also a researcher. I speculate about things. I collaborate. I write. I'm an organizer and an activist and an educator and a being. What do I do? Well, some people might say I dress up like a freshwater mussel, but what I really do is create material stories, performances, and writing that intermingle biology, conservation, history, ethics, art, and environmentalism. And that I really emphasize entangled networks of being and ecological systems, caretaking practices, and what that means. And I like to build worlds. Why do I do this? Well, I fell in love with freshwater mussels about 5 years ago. Um, and I wanted to introduce publics to this overlooked species of freshwater mussels through embodiment practices, speculative umwelt, or how a being experiences the world, and visual communication. And also, I'm a scholar, so to further visual and interdisciplinary creative research in conservation, animal studies, ecocultural communications, and making new just worlds. I live and work in Tiwa territory, also known as Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I've made work about freshwater mussels from Australia to Mexico, Vermont, New York, the Rio Grande watershed. But I also really make work from a place that I call the benthos. A lot of you are probably very familiar with the benthic zone, which is the inspiration for my benthos, which is a theoretical place that I make work from and invite others to join in. So to me, like I said, the benthos is both and neither terrestrial and nor aquatic. It is a between and an among. It does not negate seemingly binary environments, but it unites them. The benthos is a vesica piscis, which is the shape that is created when two circles are overlapped. This is where the circle of the named world and the circle of the unnameable, the untamable, and the unknowable can be in conversation. By becoming benthic, we can imagine the ooze and the squish of being alive. For me, this is a place that acts as a social and historical ecological place to become and from and within. So I know that mussels are very difficult to see. And, this is the first time I've ever presented my work that I didn't have to explain what freshwater mussels were, where they lived, how they lived. Um, and biological and conservation research is integral to my own work. I am able to weave stories between writings on riverine habitat destruction and various and particular mussel studies. I've probably read a lot of the studies from folks here. I visit hatcheries and go on field trips and field journeys. I look and share shells with others. I go on tours with folks. Why do I become benthic? It acts as a social, historical, and ecological look into freshwater various temporalities. So I often dig into the past and think about the future. These performances reflect mussels' ancient stewardship of water while recounting local histories. They speak of old human relationships to waterways and the serious implications of borders, impoundments, and pollutions, as well as private seizures of land and water. I weave a narrative of interspecies relationships beyond human and mussel. The project wonders how we can reperceive our relationships with freshwater ecosystems, consider forgotten endangered animals, understand the rights of rivers, and relate with global issues. I do these performances in public, so I encourage viewers to see the histories of the human and the more than human as forged together, and that we hold practices of care with environmentalism, and that we can begin reconciliation with water through acknowledgement of our past and possible futures. So to me, this is a way of inviting people to become benthic, which is what I call all these performances. I'm asking them to reimagine their relationship with environments and transmute themselves into the animals of the benthic zone to re-emerge as humans and environmentalists and to become stewards of ourselves. And here you can see some of the work that goes into these processes. Over here, I am on a walk in Australia with a malacologist. This is just a screenshot of some of the PDFs on my computer about mussels. And here is a studio shot from when I was working in Australia. Another way that I become embodied is through scale. So this is a work called We of the Benthos, which was a look into the endangered and imperiled freshwater mussels of the so-called United States. And so here you can see about 200 of those species that have been collected through various research information that I have found. And they are all chained together and hung from the ceiling as a way to think about take the removal and addition of animals to the endangered list, and also the removal if perhaps they become extinct, or hopefully if they become non-endangered anymore. We can look more deeply at the research that goes into this. This is my research spreadsheet of all of the endangered mussels I could find. It included going through various lists of endangered species and kind of collating those together, as well as information on who considers them endangered, where they are, where they're extirpated from, a scientific image, and then the painting. Then these were moved, and then this Excel spreadsheet is available to the public when I show this work so that they can investigate more about various mussels that they became interested in through the paintings. And I also have a massive web page of all of the individual paintings because each one to me was very special in like becoming intimate with that species. I also use a method called material, or what I call material inquiries, and that's when I think about how we relate to objects and materials within a gallery space and how they resonate against the various issues that I'm concerned with. So in this case, it's called Low-Tech Possibilities. It's a work that combined concrete casts of Texas hornshell mussels and glass carvings. And for me, that concrete, this is a concrete memorial to the Texas hornshell, of which there's only a few left in New Mexico where I live. And concrete is also the second most used material in the world. And it's also constituted of calcium carbonate, or the same material that makes up a mussel shell. And so that concrete that we use so much in the world is made out of shells of long dead mollusks. And the water that was used in this concrete mix, when I poured it, is from the Black River as well, which is the small tributary in the Rio Grande, where the Texas hornshell still lives in New Mexico. And the shells were provided by some Texas hornshell researchers, which was really critical to be able to have a relationship with those beings. The carvings that go with it are of 5 endemic species to the Rio Grande watershed, including the Texas hornshell, the false spike, Mexican fawnfoot, Rio Grande monkey face, which is now presumed extinct, and the Salina mucket. And each carving includes their host fish, as well as other environmental and ecological factors. With this exhibition came, I also created a book through doing field research with a grant from the Puffin Foundation. And that work became called Passages, or Pasajes Notas sobre el Pecos, a bilingual publication that details my field research from the basin of the Pecos River to the headwaters. The Pecos River is a Rio Grande watershed, of which the Black River, which I spoke about before, is a tributary of. And the Pecos River runs through the Permian Basin, which is a heavily extracted area for oil and gas drilling and fracking, as well as cattle ranching. And so the air and water there are poisoned by hydrocarbons, for both humans and other than human beings. So this is a poetic interpretation of that field research, in which I am speaking from the speculative point of view of a Texas hornshell writing about their home and the ways that it has changed over time. What's next for me? I'm still asking questions about the sixth extinction. I am interested in thinking more about how artists and scientists and conservationists can work together, especially to share stories. I really, truly think that stories are a way to welcome publics into this work. Thank you so much.
Flow through me. I'm your muscle.
Pseudophysis